Okay, in this video, we're actually going to be able to find the slope, and there's a formula for it. But just remember that slope is rise over run, the vertical change, so up and down, over the horizontal change, left to right. So the formula to find the slope of a line is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, what does that mean? Well, these are not exponents, okay? I want to stress that right now. Those numbers right here are not exponents. That means y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now, that's signifying our ordered pairs. So x sub 1 comma y sub 1, that's your first order pair that you're going to have. And then your second order pair is x sub 2, y sub 2. So how we find change is we subtract the difference. So we're going to take the difference here, y2 minus y1, and that's going to be your numerator. Then you're going to find the difference in your x values. So x2 minus x1, and that's going to be your denominator. Now, it's so important that your order is the same. Okay, it's very important that your order is the same. Meaning, if you're going to take this y value first, you're going to take this x value first, subtracting. All right. Now, because we have this formula, because it's way easier than counting. Okay, and then counting, okay, you got to go up 2 and to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So let's go ahead and put this formula to good use. So here's our formula. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And don't ask me why it's m. I still don't know. If you guys can find out on the internet, let me know why they choose m for slope. So here you first have to identify your x sub 2 and y sub 2 and y sub 1, or x sub 1 and y sub 1. And it doesn't matter what order. You'll get the same answer. So I'm just going to call this x sub 2 and this y sub 2. And this one x sub 1 and this one y sub 1. Okay, so I'm going to take my y sub 2, which is 2, minus my y sub 1, which is 3. And that's my numerator. Then I'm going to take my x sub 2, which is 2, minus my x sub 1, which is 5. So now I have 2 minus 3, which is a negative 1, and 2 minus 5, which is a negative 3. Now notice we have a negative over a negative, so that becomes a positive. So my slope is a positive 1 over 3. So since this is rise over run, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself for why we're going to use this, but this means I'm going up 1, because this is a positive 1, and to the right 3, because it's a positive 3. Rise over run. Pause at any time to write this down. Let's try this again. Again, we're using the same formula. Okay, the same formula. M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And you better get that memorized too. I'm going to make you memorize it. So again, identify your x sub 2, y sub 2. I just always pick the first one. I'm not too picky. But you'll get the same thing. Trust me, you'll get the same thing. So I have 1 minus a negative 3 over negative 2 minus 0. So 1 minus negative 3, we have pluses here. And a negative 2 minus 0 is a negative 2. 4 divided by negative 2 equals a negative 2. My slope is a negative 2. Next one. Again, just identify your x sub 2, y sub 2, and your x sub 1, y sub 1. So I have a negative 5 minus a negative 5. Be careful with your negatives, guys. I know you guys have a hard time with leaving your baby at Walmart, but be careful with your negatives. And then we have 0 minus 4. So we have a negative 5 plus 5, because minus a negative is a positive, so that's going to be 0 over a negative 4. Well, 0 divided by anything is just going to be a 0, so we have a 0 slope. Do you guys remember from the last video what a 0 slope looks like? It's a horizontal line. So anytime you have a zero slope, you're going to have a horizontal line. Let's check out the next one. Go ahead and pause right now and see if you can figure out what this one is. Alright, I'm going to identify the x sub 2, y sub 2, x sub 1, y sub 1. So we have a negative 1 minus a negative 5 over, we have a negative 6 minus a negative 6. So this becomes a positive 4, and this becomes a 0. Now, what happens when we have a 0 in the denominator? Yes, you're right, the universe explodes. You can't do it. Remember the last video? It says that it's a curse word. When you have 0 in the denominator, it's called undefined. And you remember what the slope looked like when it was undefined? Yep, it was straight up and down. Undefined. So here's how you find the slope. Get this memorized, this right here, this formula, and be ready to use it when we're finding actual slopes, actual values for our slope. Come with lots of questions. This will take us a long time to get through our little brains, but we'll be just fine. Okay, so come with lots of questions. All right, I'll see you guys later.